talk about adolescence as a messy emotional time. But what if I told you there's another adolescence that we're not prepared for? Imagine trying to pry the car keys away from your 79-year-old dad, who sometimes drives like Mario Andretti and other times like he's in bumper cars. It's as if he's taken the Thelma and Louise going off the cliff approach to aging. This is the moment that no one is prepared for when our aging loved ones need more supports and they think we are the problem. Fast forward 10, 20 years when our own bodies begin to age and we need more supports. Adult children of aging parents live in this emotional tug-of-war between safety and autonomy, logic and denial, love and pure hair-pulling frustration. It is happening every day, quietly, behind closed doors in our country. Well, that changes today. Introducing the adolescence of aging. This is a turbulent life stage when our fiercely independent aging parents start needing us, yet resist help at every turn. I am a daughter who knows this stage intimately. It started 9 years ago with a phone call. My mom was in crisis, the victim of financial elder abuse north of $1 million. That moment put me in the squeeze. You know, that place where I was trying to balance career, kids, and caregiving in a world that acts like it doesn't exist, but it does. And 37 million adult children in the United States are stuck in it, overwhelmed and wondering, how did I get here? We expect teenage rebellion, mood swings, and even temper tantrums, but we're surprised when our elders begin to act like mean teenagers with checkbooks and better medications. Adult children show up to help, and we're caught in this tangle of emotions of frustration, fear, and powerlessness. In grad school, I researched dopamine, especially around reward, motivation, and stress. I got an MBA to understand how people behave in systems, families, workplaces, and communities. What I didn't expect was my academic curiosities would one day serve as a lifeline for some of life's most personal and chaotic moments. We prepare for having babies, puberty, and even retirement. But what if there's an equally disruptive transition from independence to dependence that has no name and no playbook? And let me tell you, it's stunning, not only in the behavior, but how lonely this moment feels. This isn't just my story, it's our story. This is a natural stage of development that no one is talking about. There's real psychology behind what we have coined the adolescence of aging. Erik Erikson and his wife Joan wrote about the 9th stage of development. Dr. Mark Frankel wrote about the 5 stages of aging. Both map the slow, sometimes sudden shift from independence to end of life. Yet somehow this research and conversations still hasn't come to the kitchen tables. And it's not just psychology, it's neuroscience. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that's responsible for weighing risks, multitasking, and even self-regulation, this is one of the last parts of the brain to fully mature in adolescence and young adulthood. Research is pointing it might be the first to decline as we age. So just like teenagers slam doors and make bad choices, our aging parents may begin to act similarly, not because they're trying to be difficult, but because their brains are changing. Which is why the adolescence of aging isn't just a metaphor, it's a way to understand, prepare, and respond with compassion where words like aging and dementia fall short. We begin with the 3 Ds that define the adolescence of aging. The first, defiance. It's the number one question that we get. What do we do about the car keys? Balancing your parents' safety with the need for independence and control, it's tricky. It's not just about transportation. It's about identity and who gets to decide. My lived example, I heard, I'll drive until I hit something. That something was a semi. For adult children, we are surprised by this meanness and negativity from our aging parents. We feel guilty asking questions. We are hurt by the defiance and confused by who our parents are becoming. The second attribute, denial. It shows up as a defense mechanism, a way to push back against the uncomfortable truth that roles are shifting. They're not ignoring the reality to be difficult. They're holding on to a version of themselves that still feels capable, independent, and in control. My lived example, that fall, I just tripped on the carpet. Or the doctor says I'm fine. He just wants to run a few more tests. Or I don't need a hearing aid. You just mumble. Adult children are like, Mom and Dad don't need help? Falling is normal? Or Dad doesn't need a walker. He says it makes him look old. He's 87 years old. Denial leads to self-doubt. We begin to question ourselves. Am I crazy? Am I overreacting? Am I taking away their agency? The third attribute is decline, which shows up in waves of physical, cognitive, and emotional changes. Sometimes gradual, sometimes like a freight train. My lived example, a phone call from police. My mom had been found outside in the snow, barefoot. She had been there for hours. She didn't know how she got there. She didn't know what happened. It happened so fast. She said it was jarring, like she was waking up in someone else's story. For adult children, decline is all-consuming. From multiple emergency room visits, to figuring out rehab, to finding home care, it's exhausting. 1 minute, you're Googling home care at midnight in a group text with your siblings, and the next, you're explaining for the 5th time why a mandatory evacuation zone means everyone, and with good reason. Decline isn't failure. This is a natural stage of development that no one talks about and we were never taught to expect. The outcome is the 4th D, a quieter felt disempowerment, but don't let the quietness fool you. When aging parents lose control over decisions, routines, and even small things like what's for dinner, it can trigger deep emotions, shame, grief, even anger. That's why sometimes my loved ones went from 0 to nuclear. It's not just about what's happening, it's about what it represents, a loss of agency and a loss of self. For adult children, in an effort to control this new chaos that comes into our world, we try to outmaneuver risk before it turns into a crisis. Here's the problem. In an effort to try to keep them safe, we can strip away what matters most, the right to choose. For aging parents, too much control disempowers. For adult children, too much freedom courts danger. This is the tension we walk. It's not defiance, denial, and decline. It's developmental. That's why Jane, my business partner, and I wrote Thriving in Chaos, Navigating the Challenges of Aging Parents. So families will have a playbook. We started People in the Squeeze, a voice in the movement to raise awareness and to change the way we experience the challenges of aging parents. Because when you're in the squeeze, it can feel like you're the only one stuck between career, kids, and caregiving. People in the Squeeze is for all of us caught in the messy middle, navigating hard conversations and second-guessing every decision. It's a reminder that it's okay to laugh, cry, and even lose it many times before breakfast. When you're deep in the adolescence of aging, it can feel like everything is happening to you. You can't change your parents' diagnosis. You can't force a sibling to engage. You can't stop professionals who sometimes don't have the time or patience your loved ones deserve. Our bodies and minds can be hijacked by this stress, often called the fight, flight, or freeze response. That's activated by the amygdala, the part of the brain that's responsible for threat detection. And under stress, this can cause us to flip our lid, temporarily shifting resources away from our thinking brain towards immediate survival needs, which limits our ability to respond with care and compassion. That's why we created the PACE model as a way to center yourself in the storms of caring for your aging parents. The first step, P, pause, take a breath. A, assess, look around. What are you seeing? What are you feeling? C, choose, respond with intention. E, embrace, move forward with clarity. When you take a moment to pause, you can calm your brain, gather your senses, and most importantly, breathe. Breath is your body's reset button. It's the most powerful tool we have to reset and regulate from the stress response. Pacing yourself slows things down. It creates space. It asks questions. It considers other possibilities. And most importantly, it leads with compassion. Here's how pacing yourself showed up for me. On a trip across the country to visit my mom, after a long day of travel and time with her, I decided to step out and spend time at my niece's volleyball game, only to get a call that mom had fallen and was being taken to the emergency room by herself. Knowing her limitations, I couldn't imagine her navigating the chaos of the emergency room by herself. I rushed to the facility and took her to the emergency room. I hadn't eaten all day, my phone was dead, and my nerves were shot. When the staff said, "If we need you, we'll come and get you," as they took her back, I thought, oh boy, you have no idea. I took this moment to take a small break from the chaos. I stepped outside. I looked at the stars. I stretched, and I took a deep breath. I even made a TikTok in the parking lot to remind myself and others the importance of pausing. I assessed and realized my mom's needs were shifting. I chose to focus on what I could control. I chose to not lose it with the facility staff over mom's fall, and I chose to not add to the evening's drama. Because yes, hard things are happening, but in the middle of all of it, one thing remains in our control: how we can respond. You can decide sometimes every day, every hour, not to let those hard things define the temperature of the room. And sometimes it begins with a single breath under the stars. Here's another learning. This journey doesn't just impact you. It shapes everyone around you. It's what remains after the diagnosis or even after the funeral. This is the imprint you leave behind. It's the relationship with your siblings, the memory your kids carry of how you showed up for hard. What did they learn by watching you? This isn't about perfection. This is about protection. protecting the ones you love and protecting the professionals who work very hard to care for our aging parents. We can't always change the circumstances, but we can choose how we show up. If you're in the squeeze now, here are some practical first steps. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just need a place to start. The Adolescence of Aging gives you a roadmap. Say it out loud. I'm in the squeeze. I want us to try it. On the count of 3, we're going to say it together. 1, 2, 3. I'm in the squeeze. Excellent. Now find someone to tell your story, the real messy story. Begin to have conversations sooner, even if it's sticky, tricky, and sometimes icky. Begin to normalize it's okay to not have it all figured out. Practice asking for help, not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to know you can't do it alone. Those tips are for us in the squeeze right now, but this conversation is bigger than that. Today, you have a chance to help us shift this story. You can help make this better by talking about the adolescence of aging with others. Just like we did with adolescents, we can build language, tools, and supports. We began this journey not as experts, but as overwhelmed daughters. We thought we were alone in this, and we realized we aren't, and neither are you. What if we had systems in place that supported families through this life stage? Imagine knowing what's coming, saying, I know where I am, I know what to expect, and I know my first steps. Because here's the kicker. The adolescence of aging isn't about age. It's about the shifting capacity of our aging loved ones. And if it feels real, that's because it is real. It's not just emotional, it's biological. So when mom says, I'm fine, I've always driven that way, it's not stubbornness, it's human development. And just like with adolescence, the first battleground is driving, money, and decisions. So let's call this what it is, a natural stage of development. Let's name it, normalize it, and build the safety rails we'll need, if not today, then for tomorrow. And maybe, just maybe, we can go back to being daughters and sons.